would you agree that effectively what Benjamin Netanyahu is saying to Donald Trump is making a deal with Iran is the bad side of the old adage, you can't have a good deal with bad people?
Well, I think what he's really saying is that he has seen two other presidents basically fold like a deck of cards with the Iranians. We always start the simple premise of no nukes, no proxies, no missiles, but then we give away everything in the process. So Netanyahu just wants him to abide by American policy.
Yeah, well, fair to say that there have been other presidents who folded like a cheap house of cards. I think, Joel, the general was referring to somebody you worked for.
I knew you would go there. Yes, exactly. President Obama. But I got to tell you, Leland, if President Trump wants to get a deal, it's going to be much worse than what President Obama got, because Iran has made significant progress in the years since we got out of that Iran deal. But of course, there was the bombing back in June. So I don't know why President Trump would make a deal that doesn't completely eradicate every nugget of Iran's nuclear program after the strikes we took last June.
Joel, I can tell you why he wouldn't make that deal is because the Iranians, or he shouldn't make that deal, is because the Iranians lie, cheat, and steal at every turn, number one. Number two, would never allow U.S. inspectors in and verifiably disable all this stuff or give it away, because if they did, they know that's the regime's last insurance policy. Come on.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think he'll even get that deal. And that's the thing where Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be concerned, is that he might go for a half measure kind of a deal and just walk away and say he negotiated peace in our time, despite all of the pressure and the bombing and the thousands of Iranians that were killed in the streets just in the last several weeks.
General Kimmitt, President Trump's desire for some type of deal with Iran, some type of negotiated settlement that he can declare as a victory, does that miss an opportunity here to continue keeping our boot on the neck of the Iranians, of sending in the Starlinks, of supporting rebel groups or dissident groups, of trying to push the protesters, to push the Ayatollah out?
Yeah, well, listen, I think the first thing we've got to realize is that we're talking about a predicate as if there will be an agreement. The fact is that the Iranians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. My prediction is that we'll be walking away from the table because the Iranians, who have already said on Fox News, we're not going to negotiate on proxies and missiles. I just think that the Iranians are going to blow it, and we're going to conduct, along with the Israelis and other coalition allies, another strike on Iran.
Why shouldn't we do that, Joel?
Well, I got to tell you, Leland, I think we should. I think President Trump needs to hang tough. I think we've laid the groundwork over the past year, including with the war in June. And then, of course, the dismantlement of Hezbollah and Hamas by Israel put ourselves in a position now where the Iranian people are clamoring for a change. They are looking at an illegitimate terrorist regime running their country. And I think the president has time on his side. He should hang tough and try to squeeze the Iranians in the directions that the prime minister is calling for.
All right. To that point, this is the exiled prince who then wants to come back and run Iran on Wednesday.
This is yet another example of the regime trying to buy time, to ride out the Trump administration, hoping that the next administration will not be as resolute for it. Negotiating with this regime is another slap in the face of the Iranian people. I don't think Iranians should have died in vain. They deserve better. And I think President Trump is someone who is a man of his word, is a peacemaker, and he understands that the best way to achieve peace is not to rely on a regime that would betray you yet again.
General, this goes back to that question, right? Is that, can America have a deal with a regime that chants death to America and executes its own citizens in hospitals?
Only if that deal includes a significant inspection and verification regime, which we can predict the Iranians will not agree to. If there is, as we've done with the on-site inspection agency with SALT agreements and START treaties, we've been able to mutually verify and inspect. But that's the only way we're going to be able to guarantee, and we can't subcontract it to an international agency like the Atomic Energy Commission or the IAEA.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.